Alright, welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about the strings.xml file. Now, the strings.xml file is another important file that is generated in the values folder. So you go to the app and then go to resource and then drill down to the res folder, and you will see the values, and inside of there you will find the strings, and double click and you should have it here. What you do in the string files is you set all the strings or text that you want to display in your app. So this hello world here is the ID that we can then use in our code, Java code, or even in our layout files to reference the text we want it to say. So let's say if I want, in this case, to display this hello world text in our activity main layout here, of course I could go ahead, let's say, add that hello world text inside of this button here. And the way you do that, you go to our properties and find where it says text. You click on that. As you see, we can go ahead and write ourselves the name of the button. We can say new button or hello or whatever we want. But it's always a good idea to have all of the text or names that you're going to be using in your layout files be put in your strings file, and then reference them from your strings files onto your layouts. That way it's more flexible. Think of it, get to the point where you want to change the name of this button. Let's go ahead, for instance, if we go and name it hello, and we create 10 more buttons here that have different names. What happens when along the way we decided, I want to change that hello to something else in all of those buttons? Well, you'll have to come here and change each buttons that you have created. And think if you had 20 different windows in your app. You see how hard it makes now, because you have to go to each view, each window, and change all of those names. So that's why it's always recommended to assign all of your text or titles or whatever text you're going to be using in the strings.xml file, so that way it's much easier than if you wanted to change this hello, you just change it in one place as opposed to having to go in each window and change this button. So now let's go ahead here and go and add the name or reference that hello from our strings to show in our button here. So as you see, if we go here, click that and go to project, and you see already shows your string here, file, and inside the strings, and you see there's app name, there's hello world, and as we change these ID names here, you see that they change the values. So hello world, if we say OK and you go back to strings, you see that hello world here, that's the name of this string here, that's the reference that we use to go and show this hello world. As we've done, you see it changed to hello world. Right? So if we want to say to create our own, we can just go these angle brackets, so the less than sign, and we say string, and it has to all have them have to have name. So names is equal, let's call my button name, of course close, and then we put the text we want to show, my button, exclamation point, and save, and we go to our layout, and if we want to change that hello world to reference what we've just added, we just click on here and click in this three dots here, and there we go, and you see it had this my button reference name, which has the my button, and click OK, and indeed it will show my button. Now, of course, this is we're doing this in the design mode, but we can also go to the text, and you can see what we can do now. We can reference that my button text into here, and how you do that instead of how you do you just say at. This is Android way of accessing things inside the XML file. So at string / my button name. That's all. And it has already been done for us because that's what we've been doing here in the design. We've been actually using this property here to set everything. But you can always go and change yourself into the XML file. Wonderful. Well, you've now learned the power of the strings.xml and why is it important. The other reason why it's really important, and we'll see that in a later video, when you want to have your app working in different countries with different languages, that's when you will see the power of putting everything, all the text in your app into the strings.xml, because then you can create a different version of those strings with different languages. Right? So you can have French, you can have English, and whenever somebody in France or in a country where they speak French opens up your app, Android knows right away, okay, it's time to go and take the default language of this country or this phone and display that. So that's another great power of putting everything that you're going to reference into your strings.xml as opposed to just code everything into the elements. All right, I'll see you in the next video.